Hey guys, it's Timmy, and this is Pro Wrestling Unlimited. As we are here with a special video today, we've got an interview, not with Nick, who's actually joining us, but with James Kincaid, aka BimboJimbo. You guys may know him from the United Wrestling Network, PrimeTime Live. James, what's going on?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Long time coming. I'm stoked to be on with y'all.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I know you've had Nick on your podcast a couple of times, so it's glad to have you here now with us over on the PWU Unlimited channel.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and you guys do phenomenal work, so this is definitely something I've had circled on my calendar, and I appreciate you let me parachute in here.
Heck yeah. Nick, say hi to the people who've been asking for you to return.
I really feel bad. I feel like I've been cheating on this channel because there's be days where I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do the PWU stuff. I can't make it. And they're like, you know what? James just hit me up. Let me go hop on there real quick. But all the love to the lovely PWU people. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking to James. We kind of go a little ways back of all three of us, all the way back to like a New Japan show in San Francisco. Which was
back in 2018.
Awesome. Yeah, I was 19 back then, a youngin'.
Yeah, well, with the pandemic, it feels like 10 years ago now.
So. Right.
Oh, my goodness, you're telling me, man. I've hit my 30s already.
Happier and simpler times back then. But that was, that was what we met at the press conference in the lead up for that show, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we actually met because I was sitting next to Tim and I turned around and I saw maybe Huey coming in. And I was like, whoa, wow, I know that guy. He 1077 The Bone. I love them. I go back forward and you turn around like, yo, what's up? I'm his co-host. I was like, whoa. It was the first kind of connection that we made, especially like being out and working our first like real event. Having that opportunity was so awesome, and especially meeting you guys and all the fun stuff we've done since.
I remember that. It was super rad because I don't even know if I told you this, but I overheard you talking to Tim, be like, yeah, that's like Baby Huey. They do like In the Click on the Bone. And I was like, oh, wow, people actually listen to that. Because, I'm not the analytics guy for when I do shows and stuff like that. I'd rather not ask questions I don't want to know the answer to. But it was just really cool to be in a room of fellow, people that cover wrestling. And to hear that, I was like, oh, I guess our signal works. So that's cool. And, you guys were so nice and welcoming, and that event was great. So it was a cool little way for us all to meet up and start sort of collaborating together.
Absolutely. And I know we could talk about how you kind of got into pro wrestling personally and into the media field. And we know that like pro wrestling isn't the only sport you cover. Mm-hmm.
So my background is in sports radio, and now more specifically, I work for the Golden State Warriors in addition to all the wrestling stuff that I do. I've been with them since 2014, so it's all me, all the championships and the glory. It's all because of Jimbo. But no, I'm very fortunate to getting hooked up into that world, and done some work in baseball and all myriad of sports through KMBR 680 when I was with them. But pro wrestling has always been my passion. Like I love it. It makes me go. My dad, I think we were at the height of the Golden State Warriors sort of run in the championships and stuff. And my dad said, he's like, would you really would you leave the Warriors to go work for WWE or whatever? And I was like, yeah. I would. I'd mop Vince's floors. He's like, he's like, my dad's super supportive of me chasing my dreams in all manner of forms, whether it's the Golden State Warriors or pro wrestling. But it's just for him, it's sort of, he's still sort of incredulous as to the power that pro wrestling has on me, and it's never left from a young age. I always say, Macho Man Randy Savage was my first favorite professional wrestler. He was the one that I gravitated towards first before any other one. And, I did love Hulk Hogan. Everybody did. He's kind of like the Michael Jordan of pro wrestlers. But I had sort of just a special affinity for Macho Man. And I remember, and I've told this story before, but, WrestleMania 5, when it was the Mega Powers exploding, I remember, renting and then buying that tape and watching it over and over again, hoping that the main event would end in a different result and Macho Man would prevail. Never happened, but, be a man, Hogan. And then from there, I became a huge Shawn Michaels fan. He's my all-time favorite wrestler, and it's always just had this hold on me.
So you say you've been a wrestling fan for a long time. I know you did commentary in the Bay Area. How did that all start? You getting in with doing commentary and stuff up there where you're from?
So, yes, I do pro wrestling commentary for All Pro Wrestling, which is one of the gold standard promotions in the Bay Area. And, Northern California, the Bay Area just has a myriad of really great wrestling promotions. And All Pro Wrestling is certainly right there among with the best of the best. And for those of you that may maybe aren't from California that are listening to this but have heard of All Pro Wrestling is the promotion that is featured in Beyond the Mat, the wrestling documentary that came out in the 90s and is now back on Netflix, so you can check it out there. So All Pro Wrestling was really the first sort of non WWF, WCW, ECW promotion that I was sort of tertiarily aware of because of Beyond the Mat. And, I grew up a Californian. And then when I came up to San Francisco for college, I started going to their shows. They were still at the Garage in Hayward at the time. And, I was doing a college sports report. So I asked the instructor, I was like, hey, like for my sports reports, can I go cover pro wrestling? Can I, shoot pro wrestling and do my reports on that? And they're like, yeah, sure. That, seems totally fine. So I actually talked to Roland, who has subsequently sadly passed away, but he's the promoter and the founder of All Pro Wrestling. He let me come in and, as long as I wasn't getting in, the way of the people that were shooting it for him, I could shoot the matches. I could, do some stuff with the, in the ring with wrestlers and everything like that. And that's sort of where I guess my first real step in towards the broadcast side of professional wrestling. And then fast forward, working at KMBR, the sports radio station, doing stuff with Baby Huey on the Bone. But my friend Mike Millerick, who is a manager in the Bay Area and, does various things with promotions as Mike Miller, we were getting ready to go down to San Diego Comic-Con. And he's like, what do you want to do? Like, what's your dream job? And I said, well, honestly, I would like to be a pro wrestling commentator or like a Mean Gene, just something in wrestling. Like, I love what I do in, sports with the Warriors and stuff. And like, I will take that gig until the wheels fall off. But, back pocket dream of dream jobs is to be a wrestling commentator. He's like, well, why don't you do it up here? I was like, yeah, I want to, but, I don't really know how to break in, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes. And he made a phone call to All Pro Wrestling promoter Marcus Mack, and they talked about it, and Marcus said, yeah, that sounds great. I knew he was interested in it and was, wondering why he didn't hit me up. And so that's kind of how it happened. And, we talked about it, and I wanted to make it clear. I was like, hey, if you think I suck, don't hold back, because I have, too much respect for the brand that is APW, All Pro Wrestling, to, want to hold that back. But fortunately, they thought I did a good enough job, and I became the voice of APW, and that launched me into, to other things as well. And it's just, it was a heck of a thing. And that's why, the pandemic has made me so sad, because APW had some really cool plans for this year that sort of got washed out, as did so many other promotions, that were trying to run shows. So that was a bummer. And, my heart goes out to all of them, because, they work their tails off to put on just really high quality entertainment for all the fans.
So you go APW, you're working there, 2020 hits. How does the primetime stuff come together?
Okay, so this I'll go the long way around the barn for this one too. Apologies to all your listeners, I'm a little bit long-winded. So the Primetime Wrestling, Primetime Live, came about because it's sort of a twofold story here. So I had gone down to the APW Gold Rush school and was talking to sort of the, just going to observe and talking to the new recruits, as it were. And I was on my way back, and, I was thinking, I was like, this APW stuff is great. Like, I want to do more. Like, I want to really lean in 2020 and do more in professional wrestling and give it an honest try and, step up to the plate. And the next day I got a message from pro wrestler Levi Shapiro, who, I tell that first part of the story because it's just whatever you believe, there is sort of just funny how things can work out when you put them up to whatever in the world that you believe in. And he messaged me, he said, hey, I have an opportunity that I think you'd be perfect for. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is going to be putting on their syndicated show in the Bay Area on KGO ABC 7. And he was like, I'm going to be one of the hosts. We need like a more sort of like broadcaster, straight-laced host to be, sort of the gorilla to the Bobby Heenan. I think you'd be perfect for it to do it with me. I was like, yes, 1,000% yes, let's do it. And that is the David Marquez production, which is Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, or just Championship Wrestling presented by West Coast Pro Wrestling here in the Bay Area. And so that got started. And one of the cool aspects of that is that we didn't have a studio space dedicated up here for it in the Bay Area. So we actually went to my alma mater, the great San Francisco State University, which is where I got my degree in radio TV broadcasting. That's right. Go Gators.
I got the jacket. Don't worry.
We actually talked to some of the instructors there in the broadcasting department, and they love the idea of students being able to get real life television production experience that would air on ABC 7 going. So before the shutdown, we were actually shooting our wraparound segments from the studios at San Francisco State University, which was really cool for me to be able to give back to the students and to a school where I learned so much and take so much pride in having, gone to and everything like that. So that was really cool. And that was sort of my in with David Marquez and company. And I really enjoyed doing that. And then the pandemic hit and school shut down, studio shut down. I started doing the raps just for my house, laptop camera, headset on, and hey, everybody, wear your mask, wash your hands kind of deal. And, and they weren't shooting new content at that point. It was like best ofs and stuff like that. And then, as things, sort of settled out a little bit more and protocols were put in place, sort of some people, obviously with WWE and AEW, they never stopped producing content and stuff like that. But, once, we were able to sort of approach it in this safe manner, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood sort of started ramping up to where they were going to be able to safely do some tapings again. But in the midst of all of this came about this opportunity to do PrimeTime Live, which is David Marquez runs the United Wrestling Network, and they have a tight-knit relationship. David Marquez, if you recognize that name, of course, you know him as on-air talent on NWA Power, but he also, has been affiliated with the NWA for years and years before that. So they have a working relationship with the NWA. That is what led to the creation of PrimeTime Live, which is the United Wrestling Network, NWA, all the, AEW wrestlers come through there, New Japan wrestlers come through there, all manner of wrestlers coming through to do this weekly pay-per-view format. And I got the call to do backstage interviews with them and now commentary. So it's been pretty rad.
So you speak of the, I guess you say, tight-knit relationship that they have with the NWA and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Could you maybe branch out with any of those other promotions, or are you just PrimeTime Live?
Well, so I'll give you a little bit of a tease, I guess. This coming weekend, I will be on the call. I'll be on commentary with Todd Kennelly and Blake Troop with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood.
Nice.
So whereas I normally would just do the wraparound segments for when it's Championship Wrestling presented by West Coast Pro Wrestling here in the Bay Area, I got added to the desk for the last round of tapings, and that was a lot of fun. So you'll start seeing those episodes air in short order. And so, and with the PrimeTime Live gig, it's been phenomenal. Like the matches that I've gotten to call, the action that they put out, the amount of talent coming through there is amazing. and the stories that we're getting to tell have been just top tier.
Now, with Primetime Live, they run that out of Thunder Studios. And every time I watch the show, I go, this has such a different feel to it, because you're used to watching a wrestling show where, and I'm not even going to say, oh, wrestling show with fans or anything, but you're used to watching a wrestling show where the ringside area is defined by a barricade. But you guys run it to where there's a ring, there's a ramp, just go for it. What do you feel makes that so different as far as just having that open area for the wrestlers to do whatever and not a small ringside area?
Well, you mentioned it off the top in your question there. So we shoot Primetime Live at Thunder Studios, which is a closed set. And unlike NWA Power, we don't set it up like that there's going to be fans in the studio. We know that we can't have fans right now, so we have, positioned everything accordingly in there, which does give it a very unique feel and a really, I think, cool environment for the wrestlers to play in. I mean, you see almost every week on Primetime Live, the wrestlers making unique usage of, Thunder Studios. Whether it be the rampway, shout out to Kevin Martinson, who's had more than one bad run-in on the rampway, to, Mike Bennett pile driving Sean Davari through the timekeeper's table out there on the outside, and Kratos and Aaron Stevens coming over to the commentary desk and talking into one of the other cameras while they were, just making my life miserable after they stole the NWA tag team titles. But I digress. Thunder Studios, I mean, it's a really cool venue for pro wrestling. And we like to call it the epicenter of pro wrestling. And I think that unique vibe that we're given, I think is resonating with people.
I really like it. I mentioned this to you off air. But one thing I really love about watching it is it really does give that kind of like real different down home type. Like, man, I'm just watching some dudes and some gals wrestle and just fight. It's a lot of fun. It gives that whole different vibe of what you're used to seeing with your WWE and AEW, where you have your set ring, where people are going to be, the usual stuff you're probably going to see with things around you. Now knows what you're going to see, and I think that's a lot of fun, especially the talent you guys have down in Primetime. Mike Bennett, I love you. I know you're a big fan of the show. Great stuff he's been doing down there.
I'm you said a couple things I really want to touch on there in terms of, it is just they go out and they wrestle, and they boy do they ever, and they tell great stories, which to me is always, I think, when my dad or anybody's parent can sort of be like, what is it about pro wrestling? Like, the quote unquote, oh, it's God forbid somebody says it's fake or what have you. What is it about it that, like, knowing all that stuff about it? It's like they're telling great stories. What wrestling at its best is incredible sports related storytelling. And that's what Primetime Live gives you week in and week out. And, you mentioned Mike Bennett. What a great story that he tells in every one of his matches. I love calling Mike Bennett matches because he is, he talks about being real. And I compare him to, for listeners that have seen the movie Cinderella Man, Jim Braddock, who was a boxer in the Depression era, lost everything, endured injuries, lost his kids for a period of time because he couldn't afford them, basically all these things allayed against him that he had to sort of pick himself off the mat and go back to work. And I see so many similarities in the story of Mike Bennett and what he is able to tell in that wrestling ring. And you go back to the very first episode of Primetime Live when he faced Nick Aldis for the NWA World Championship, and how he was, locked into this submission hold, but looking at his wife, not wanting to submit because he is fighting literally for his family's well-being. And it's powerful. And I think it's really connecting with people. It's certainly connecting with me. And so we have this United World Championship tournament, chock full of great competitors. And Mike Bennett has made his way into the finals, a chance to sort of continue on this 2020 redemption story. And as he said, he quoted Hamilton, he's not throwing away his shot. And on the other side of the finals, facing off with Mike Bennett, will be the Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson, who is somebody that outside of network wrestling is one of the very brightest stars there is. And he came to Primetime Live, demanded competition, and he got it. And now he finds himself in the finals with a chance to become our first world champion. It's just really, again, that story to me, something's got to give. And I'm excited to see it.
So
That makes me. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
I'll go for it, Nick.
I was just gonna say it makes me real happy, man. It's really nice to see, a lot of these promotions really make sure they're focusing on the storytelling aspect of professional wrestling because you have the talent, you got the wrestlers who want to wrestle, and so going out there and telling really compelling stories that aren't, silly or slapping in your face. They're like stories that you can sink your teeth into and get invested in week by week and want to keep watching. Primetime Live is doing a lot of cool stuff, and I if you haven't checked it out, I really recommend that you do.
Yes, well, I appreciate that, and you can get it on Fight, you can get it on in-demand pay-per-view or direct TV, and we're gonna have a lot of other great stuff coming your way, and beyond Mike Bennett and beyond Chris Dickinson, we have again the NWA Championship has been the World's Heavyweight Championship's been defended. We've seen Trevor Murdoch become the new NWA National Champion. The Pope becoming the TV champion, Aaron Stevens, and Kratos, who, a lot of people, as Aaron Stevens say, you can't prove he wasn't the question mark. They became the new NWA Tag Team Championship champions. Thunder Rosa successfully defended her NWA Women's Championship and then lost it to Serena Deeb. So, you see it's championship television. And so you see so many things every week when you tune into Primetime Live.
So on Primetime Live, you mentioned this briefly, but you work with Todd Kennelly and Blake Troop. I know Blake Troop comes from the MMA side of things. Todd Kennelly, we've seen around for a very long time. What have you learned by working with both of these guys?
A tremendous amount already. They are a great team to be a part of. Todd is an absolute pro, and he flies the plane. He's lead play-by-play. And he is, I think, one of the best around at, calling the action, but then also passing the ball to either Blake or myself to get in and for us to add something to the call. And, I just feel like every week our chemistry is building. I love that we have a guy like Blake Troop on the broadcast, the toughest, most legit BA commentator in the business. Get a load of Bulletproof Blake Troop. If you're watching this or listening to this, Google him and tell me that is not one bad man. And so, he does it for real in the cage. This guy flies to Baltimore, wins an open weight tournament, comes back to California to commentate Primetime Live with gold around his neck and a trophy in hand. He's as legit as it comes. So when he's talking about, a wrestler putting a submission hold on somebody or certain types of strikes and what that'll do, it's legit. He adds this layer of legitimacy that, most commentary teams don't really have. So he is such a wonderful luxury to have. He's a really great guy, and he's eager just to keep getting better as we all are on the team. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's cool. So as we start to wrap things up here, I'm going to try and pull maybe a scoop out of you if it's possible. I don't know if it is. We know that NWA announced their new Shockwave show coming out next week. They said it's filmed at Thunder Studios. Did you see any of that? Can you talk to any of that? If not, just say no comment.
I can't really speak to that as of this moment, but if I had anything that I could share with you, I certainly would. But I'm as excited as all the other NWA fans out there to find out what is going to be all about. So I'm just gonna have to stay tuned like the rest of you.
Awesome. That sounds cool. I know they're coming back. They work really close with Primetime. Like you said, a lot of their titles have been defended on the show. I know we saw the match where Serena Deeb actually won the NWA Women's World Championship on Primetime Live. So now as we wrap things up, what has been maybe your top 2 or 3 favorite matches you've been able to call so far from Primetime Live?
Oh, man. Okay, so from Primetime Live, I loved the semifinal match between Mike Bennett and Sean Davari. I think just when I got swept up in the moment when Mike Bennett pile drove Davari through the table, I just shouted on commentary. It wasn't the most technically sound commentary I've probably ever done, but I was legitimately swept up in the moment. So that is definitely one. And this wasn't a match, but one of my favorite interactions was on my first appearance on Primetime Live when I was doing backstage interviews. and I was tasked with talking to the Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson. And he and I went back and forth. He kept telling me to shut up and everything like that. And I was just, to take off my commentator hat for a minute to put on my wrestling fan hat again. After it was done, I texted one of my best friends. I was like, dude, I just got Kevin Kelly'd by one of the top heels in pro wrestling right now. I'm so excited because it was fun for me, like getting to have that sort of classic Rock Kevin Kelly style interaction on an interview. And that was super fun. He's, and keep your eyes fixed on Chris Dickinson because he can absolutely go in the ring, and he is one of the very best talkers in the business today. And, in wrestling, as we're maybe looking for that next super breakout guy, Chris Dickinson certainly very well could be it. So that was very fun for me to have that interaction. And again, the Mike Bennett Davari matchup was a lot of fun too.
Absolutely, man. If you want to, can you remind the people at home one more time where they can watch Primetime Live if we've piqued their interest this little interview we've been doing? Yeah,
absolutely. So if you have the Fight TV app, which in my opinion is the easiest way to watch it, because you can buy the Fight TV bundle. It's very affordable, and you get the whole month of shows there for it. So you can go on Fight TV and get it there. You can do it on in-demand pay-per-view or direct TV, and it's Tuesday nights. And then also be sure, if you're listening or watching this, to check your local listings for Championship Wrestling. Especially if you're in the Bay Area, it's ABC 7, and you can catch myself and Levi Shapiro on there.
Yeah, it's been that's my favorite part, is like walking downstairs to go make myself a little snack. I pop on the TV. I'm like, not only is there wrestling, but it's my boys on the TV. I love it. But hey, we mentioned like in the very beginning of the show, I mentioned that I've been on your show a couple of times, and then we went ahead and talked nothing about your podcast. So let's go ahead and go over that real quick about the Wrestling War Room. If you want to tell
absolutely. Well, so I keep busy. If nothing else in 2020, I'm like a shark. I just got to keep swimming. So I got signed on to the Tenno Media Network, which is a podcast network. Tenno is a company that has streamed fighting games and various productions the world over. They are certainly, in my opinion, the worldwide leader in sort of streaming events of that nature. And so they launched a podcast network earlier this year, and they brought me on to host the Wrestling War Room, which is a podcast that focuses mostly on the Wednesday Night War. We touch on things outside of that, the major news of the day and things like that, but mostly on AEW and NXT, sort of back and forth, and not in a rivalry sense, but in an appreciation sense more so, because there's so much great wrestling to enjoy out there. And then I do Downloadable Cinema for them, or the DLC, which is a movie podcast. Love doing that one. And then, in my opinion, sort of, again, from my perspective, the flagship, which is the Best Damn Nerd Show, which is a podcast that I've been doing since college, that we have resurrected on the Tenno Media Network, which is a panel-based show. It's me and, the other co-hosts through the years from the Best Damn Nerd Show, talking about all manners of nerdery. So we're talking video games, movies, we do pro wrestling comes up, and all kinds of different things on the Best Damn Nerd Show. So yeah, check out the Tenno Media Network if you get the chance. We would love to have your listenership there as well.
Absolutely. And we'll provide links to everything Primetime Live, Tenno Media, all the things that we mentioned. We'll provide links down below.
Appreciate it.
Of course. Where, if these people were just so interested in your voice, they just could not get enough of it, they just need to read things that you post online.
My DMs are open. What?
Good to know, baby. Okay. I'll be in there after the show. But if they gotta slide in the DMs, they gotta know what the ad is. So where can they find you?
On Twitter, actually, it's bimbo.jimbo on Instagram. It's the BimboJimbo on Twitter. James Kincaid on Facebook, all that good stuff. And I really do love interacting with people on there, whether it's pro wrestling, whether it's nerd stuff, whatever you got, hit me up on Twitter. I'm trying to be better at Twitter. So go to the BimboJimbo on Twitter and help me sort of stay on that app more.
Twitter is one of my favorite and least favorite places on the internet. And I think everyone
it can be a nightmare hellscape at times, but I'm trying to be better at actually using it.
Amen. You guys, you can follow me at ArmWeek21. Tim, what's your Twitter?
Well, everybody knows my Twitter. It's at TimmyBuddy. You can follow us, Pro Wrestling Unlimited. But I want to thank James one more time for coming on here, talking with us, giving us a little backstory on how he started Primetime Live and everything else that he's working on right now. James, thanks for joining us today.
Seriously, anytime, you guys. This was a lot of fun. And anytime you guys want to talk some wrestling or whatever, I'm your man.
Absolutely. I had a lot of fun today. I hope everyone listening did as well. Tim, you want to do an outro? Because I don't know how to do podcast outros. I don't do these anymore.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you again to Jimbo, James, and everybody that's listening right now. Remember, you can catch this right here on our YouTube channel. So with that, have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time.